Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you are new to me and this is the first time you're seeing my face, hello, welcome to my home. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. That's what I do. That's what I like to do. So I hope that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening. If you are not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and the continued support. I really, really do appreciate it. Today for you, I have my Mafia Romance Readathon wrap up. Oh my god, I cannot believe it's over. I had such a blast doing this readathon. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, the Mafia Romance Readathon was hosted by Jen over at the Book Refuge, and I will link her lovely face down below. Please go check her channel out. She is fan-fucking-tastic. Love that girl. Love her. Love her. But I digress. It was from May 5th to May 8th, and all you did was read Mafia Romance, which is a subgenre of romance, and it's a little bit on the darker side. So for us darker kind of people, we have our own readathon, guys. There you go. And I am very happy to say that I not only completed my TBR, which I will also link that video down below, but I surpassed it. And I found I've probably found my new favorite romance genre. Yeah, pretty sure I did. So without further ado, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, because we've got a shit ton of books to talk about and a lot of sexy alpha males to talk about. All right. So before I get into this, I do want to preface this video that I will be talking about a lot of graphic adult content, primarily themes of BDSM, sex, graphic language, dubious consent. So if you are not comfortable with any of these kind of ideas, please, you have been warned. These are the type of materials I'm talking about. My books that I read primarily consisted of BDSM and that lifestyle. So you have been warned. All right. So during the Mafia Readathon, Jen created this really cool bingo board that looks like this. Now, there were multiple prompts that you could use to fill in the bingo board. And as you can see the prompts, these are the prompts that I chose. And I'm happy to say that I blacked this fucker out. I am so proud of myself. Let's just take a moment. Jackie actually finished a TBR. Yes! Oh, feels so good. Feels so good that I blacked this fucker out. So, we are gonna go into each book individually. I'm gonna tell you my thoughts, my feelings, a little bit about the book, the prompts that it hit, and the prompts that it covered, and just kind of my all-around experience with the said book. So let's get started. The first book that I completed, and these are the order that I completed the books in, by the way. The first book that I completed was an audiobook, and it was The Bratva's Baby by Jane Henry. And here's the cover. Is he not gorgeous? Oh my God. This is Casimir. Just so you know, this is Casimir. He's fantastic. I love him. And yes. The Bratva's Baby follows Casimir and Sadie and is our first installment in Jane Henry's series of The Wicked Doms. This is Bratva Mafia, and it is a captive-captor romance. It shows dubious content, surprise baby, and heavy, heavy BDSM themes with an emphasis on subservience. Now, these are the prompts that this book completed. It completed Bratva Mafia, and I have my notes over here, so let me double check. It completed New to Me author, because this is my first Jane Henry book. By the way, love her. Love her. I love her books. Now, and you'll see why in a second. So, let's get into this book, shall we? All right. So we have Casimir and Sadie. Casimir is a brigadier general of the Bratva army and is charged with kidnapping Sadie, marrying her, taking her inheritance, and then getting the fuck rid of her. That is the whole game plan here. He will take the inheritance and pay it to his Pakan, I think is how they're saying the word. Pakan, the head mafioso boss of the Russian mafia. That is what Bratva is the Russian mafia. And he will pay that inheritance to Dmitri. We never know really why he has to pay Dmitri. We never find that out. Sadie is a very shy, quiet librarian from America who is obsessed with historical fiction romances and, surprise, surprise, a virgin. She doesn't have a lot of fire and a lot of kick in the beginning, but she finds it. Casimir draws it out of her. So, we are introduced to this story with a dual point of view. So it's going between Casimir's perspective and Sadie's perspective, alternating between chapters. And we are introduced to Casimir in the very first chapter. Casimir plans to slowly seduce Sadie to make her fall in love with him, so it just is a very easy tactic, but something happens to speed up this process, so he has to drug her and take her to Russia. Yeah, that happened. Oh yeah. Through a series of acts, Sadie is made to submit. These acts are repetition of very small acts, such as getting undressed and getting redressed over and over and over again, being placed in the corner, sexualized beatings, forced orgasm, subjugation, and, by the way, her first sexual experience ever, which, by the way, that was one of the best scenes of this book. Oh my God, it was fantastic. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. So good. There is a forced marriage in this, or more like an arranged marriage, which I did not know about going into the book, so I did not include that as one of the prompts that this book fulfilled, but it did fulfill it. And through this forced marriage, Casimir obviously decides that he starts to develop feelings, because we all know what happens with romance novels. He starts to develop feelings. She starts to develop feelings. Very mutual-esque. And Casimir gets to the point where he will literally kill anybody just for looking at her. And I love an alpha male like that. Oh, they're my favorite. I just love it so much. Now, sadly, a surprise pregnancy happens, which completely throws everything for a loop. And then we find out that Sadie is actually not the girl that we thought she was. She has no inheritance. She has nothing. So when she said, "I have nothing," in the beginning of the book, she wasn't lying. She's the wrong girl. So what does Dimitri do? Tells Casimir to get rid of her. And Casimir, to save his own ass, says, okay. Sadie finds out and flees. So then we have our grovel at the end of the book, and it's all right. It's all right. That's the summary of the book. Now, let's really get into this. So, the sex scenes. I am using Jen at the Book Refuge's spice scale. I will link the video that she talks about her spice rating scale. She did create this. I don't have one of my own because, like I said, this is a very new genre to me, so I didn't even think I needed one. So I am using hers, and I will link the video where it is all explained. But let me bring it up so I can actually tell you what some of the ratings mean as well as I go through them. I have my notes here, so we gotta do this. All right, so I gave this book a 4.25 on the spice scale. It has very graphic language, oral and penetration sex scenes described in great detail. I mean, this shit was on point, all right? It was fantastic. Oh! And there was varied degrees of severity of BDSM practices such as collaring, spanking, small whippings, gagging, and training toys. There is a very graphic scene of using a anal plug, and it's one of the best scenes. I love it. Oh, so good. Such a good fucking scene. Oh, so fantastic. Love this. Loved it. Now, a 4 on the spice scale, according to Jen, is fairly often and graphic in description, the words are used and are more crude and aggressive during the act, lots of foreplay, sexy talk, slightly kinky, anal. There is a bigger plot to the book. So that pretty much describes this book entirely. There is a lot of plot, but the sex scenes are very, very in there. They're graphic and they're fantastic. So you might need a cigarette after this one, guys. Now, what about this book actually worked? So the Bratva Mafia, I listened to on audio, and I'm telling you what God knows. The narrator, perfecto. If I could say perfect in Russian, I would. I don't know how to say perfect in Russian, but he was epic. He was perfect. He had the Russian accent, and he had this deep, growly voice, and it's just, oh my God, it was fucking fantastic. Oh, I loved him. And he was narrated by Wen Ross. He actually narrated both audiobooks that I did for this readathon, and I'm a huge fan of him. His voice is just on point, epic. So that definitely lent to this book for me. I did find Sadie's internal monologue very relatable. I could understand it. I could get behind it. However, towards the end, it started becoming less relatable. But in the beginning, I was totally behind Sadie 100%. Now, Casimir's internal monologue pretty much stayed constant the entire time. He was an alpha male, kind of an ass, knew what he wanted, wasn't playing around. Even when he started developing feelings for Sadie, she was still his. He wasn't going to let anything happen to her. So no longer a prisoner, but now a wife. They stayed the same. I loved it. I loved it. And the graphic scenes, despite how graphic and detailed they were extremely tasteful. I did not feel dirty at all while reading this book. I did not feel uncomfortable reading this book. I did not feel out of place listening to this book and having these things in my head. It was fantastic. It was very, very, very well done. I very much appreciated this. Now, there are some things about this book that didn't work. The description of intricate positions, she got tied up like a pretzel a few times, and I had to sit there and actually re-listen to the descriptions to try to figure out where her legs were and how they were. I had to look some of them up because I'm like, I don't actually know what I'm visualizing right now, so I needed to match the picture with the description. So they were almost too intricate of positions. Some of the ties that she was in for the BDSM training sessions, they were a little intricate for me. The original plot, marry her, take her inheritance, and get rid of her. That left a lot of unanswered questions. I mentioned previously that we never actually find out why Casimir needs to pay Dimitri money. We never find out who they thought Sadie was. So I found that some of these unanswered questions were kind of annoying. I would have liked those more fleshed out. I think it would have been more of a well-rounded book. I feel like it would have been stronger, a lot stronger, if I would have had some of those unanswered questions answered. And I don't know if they ever get answered in the rest of the series at this point. So, they made a really big point in the beginning of the book to say it was impossible for her to escape, going up the elevator, having the fingerprint scanners that only work for Casimir on this floor. He's the only one that can access this floor. He's the only one that can allow people on this floor. Just very extreme. You can't go anywhere. You have no free movement, nothing. Like you're stuck. And at the very end, she gets out kind of easy. For as much detail as I got in the beginning of the book, how difficult it was going for her to get out, that was really easy, in my opinion. The time it took to find her in the beginning versus the time it took her to find in the end. In the beginning, they found her in the States fairly easily. It took no time at all to find her, locate her, get her routine down, get her sizing, everything they need to prepare for her arrival. Super simple, like just another day at the office. The time it took to find her at the end, it took him 8 months, and she was like 14 miles down the road. I'm sorry, what? Okay. That didn't jive with me that well. That kind of like, eh. And then the grovel at the end, it wasn't as strong as I wanted it. It wasn't, but for this book, it was okay because I think the grovel was more clearing up the misunderstanding of I'm not going to kill you. I was saying I was going to save my own ass. So that's why it wasn't that strong of a grovel. So that's what, in my opinion, didn't work. All in all, I gave this book a 4-star. And I loved it so much, I picked up the sequel. But we will get to that one in a minute. So that was The Bratva's Baby by Jane Henry, my first book that I read for the Mafia Romance Readathon, and my first ever Mafia Romance read. Holy shit, it was great. I wish it would have been a 5-star, but it's okay. Casimir is he's still Casimir to me. So, all right. The next book that I read for this readathon was J.T. Geisinger's Ruthless Creatures, and I did read the physical book of this. This is the first installment of the Queens and Monsters series. It is also Bratva Mafia. I believe this can also be identified as an outsider to Mafia. There is extreme amounts of violence in it, minor BDSM themes, not as heavy as the Bratva Baby, and very, very, very graphic language. Like, they drop the word cunt multiple times in this book, and I'm okay with that, but I just want to pre-warn you. So, this book follows Cage, also known as Casimir. Yeah, Casimir's kind of a theme. It's kind of a theme, and Natalie. And this is my bingo board for Ruthless Creatures. This is what it looked like. It completed the prompts of new to you author, yet again, recommended by the host because Jen herself has recommended this book multiple times in multiple videos, as well as tattooed hero because our lovely Casimir, aka Cage, is tattooed, and isn't he gorgeous? Oh, he's so hot. Anyway, so let's break this one down. So this, as I said, follows Cage and Natalie. Natalie was engaged to her husband, David, who disappeared the day before their wedding. And up to this point, we have no idea what happened to him. Is he dead? Is he alive? Did he flee? Did he fall off a mountain? We don't know. 5 years later have passed. Cage is sent to eliminate Natalie for some weird reason. Tie up loose ends, maybe? We're not quite for sure. And to do this, he buys the house that is literally right next door to her, just so he can keep an eye on her. Also a nice way to launder money, which he does tell her that, which I thought was fantastic. A letter is found in a security deposit box that reveals that David always loved Natalie with this random key that we're not really, quite understanding what's going on. This random letter is sent to her that has a key in it. It's to a security box, and there's another letter in there. And you start to feel like there's more to this story than just, a nice little romance novel with a nice little slap and tickle in the background. It's there's some serious plot to this book. Cage, though, I mean, he is immediately lustful of Natalie. She is a stunning, beautiful woman, and he just wants to devour her and basically tells her that. I mean, literally one of their first conversations where they're actually speaking to each other, he says literally my favorite line, you could sit on my lap while I finger bang you and eat my food. Yeah, I love that. That's not exactly the words he used, but yeah, that's the concept. And I stopped reading at that point and thought, how do you do that? I even asked my husband, and he explained to me how that would work. It was fantastic. I loved it. A little relationship has kind of started to form between these two, and they go on a date. And this is where Natalie really actually starts to realize that he is Mafia. And there's a shootout, which leads to the first big, huge sex scene. Oh my God. Fan-fucking-tastic. Oh my God, it was fantastic. So good. So good. So good. Because of the sex, it's fantastic. Cage wants her. She's his, but his lifestyle does not allow them to be together on a regular basis. So this kind of pseudo long distance relationship kind of starts to formulate, but it's only on his terms when he can be there with her because he has to keep his life separate because he was sent to kill her and he didn't. Instead, he fucked her. And he has to lie to his boss that she's dead. And so he does that. Well, I think you can figure out what happens here. Yes, it is found out that she is not dead, and in fact, he is alive, and a new assassin is sent to get her, and she becomes like this total fucking badass and stands up for herself, and it's pretty fucking cool. I thoroughly enjoyed her character arc here. That was fantastic. And then we start to really find this letter that I previously mentioned. It starts to pan out this little like treasure hunt sort of thing. Fantastic. This plot was fucking great. I loved this plot. Loved it. Loved the storyline. So great. So great. Oh, it keeps moving on me. Ugh. All right. Let me get back to my notes. It keeps moving. So what worked about this book was the plot. It was very, very strong. It played an active role in this story. If you took this plot out of the story, it would just be a couple random sex scenes here and there. This plot was an active member of this story, and it was fantastic. It kept you engaged. It kept you wanting to know, kept building and building. It was great. It was great. JT Geisinger did a fan-fucking-tastic job with that plot. She also gave us really kick-ass side characters, aka Sloane. She's hilarious. I want her as my best friend. That woman, yes, that is your ride or die right there. That is a ride or die friend, and I love her. Love, love, love her. The character traits of both characters, the heroine and the hero, Cage with his blatant, straightforward, tell it like it is, no bullshit, take no prisoners kind of attitude. Nat, who has this wit about her that she is just one like this with the frickin' zinger. She can hold her own against Cage, and it is fantastic to see them bicker back and forth in their play against each other. Great, great character interactions in this book. Fantastic. And I'm not just talking about dialogue. Their sex scenes are great too, but their dialogue was on point. The twist in this book, it wasn't just a sex book. There was an actual twist with it that you didn't see coming. And I'm like, whoa. Yes. Yes! Thank you! This is fantastic! Yes! Oh, that was great. I loved that moment. And then, of course, the end third act grovel. It was good. Cage wanted out. She thinks he has lied to her about everything and he doesn't actually give a crap about her, and he walks in right at the right time and says, I never lied about a damn thing. And I'm just like, yes! You go, Cage. I love it. I love it. Oh, it was so great. So fucking great. But there were a few things that did not work in this book. The idea that they were tying up loose ends 5 years later. David went missing 5 years before Gage even comes into play. And I feel like if he was that big of a deal, they would have gotten rid of Natalie a lot earlier than they did. But I do understand they were trying to figure out what was really going on. But I just feel like it would have been closer to the actual loss and disappearance of him. So I feel like that didn't really play well to its favor, but it was okay. I still enjoyed it very, very much. And then at the very end with the twist, just how easily the twist was resolved. And I found that my Bratva romance and then this one, the endings tend to wrap up quickly, and I don't know if that's a common theme among romance books. I'm not quite sure. I've not read a lot of like hardcore romance, so I don't really know if that's a common theme. But for me, I just noticed that these first two, the endings seem to wrap up just a little too quickly for me. I would rather have them been fleshed out more, give me a little bit more, make the book a little bit longer. I would been totally cool with that. I was still down for it because let's talk the sex scenes, because these things, oh my God. I gave this a 4 on the spice scale. Graphic scenes with graphic language. We're talking very graphic language. I've already dropped the C-bomb once. So very, very graphic, but it was great. It didn't feel forced. The words she used didn't feel like she was just trying to pick the dirtiest words known to man and put them on a page just to make you feel like, ooh, I'm dirty. No, they felt like they actually deserved to be like, these characters would actually say these things. The words she chose the characters to use feel like their characters would have actually used them. They weren't forced and they weren't trying to be something that they're not. Loved that. Loved it about it. The oral and penetration scenes also explicitly detailed. There's a great oral sex scene. Oh my God, that was probably my favorite. No, second. It was probably my second favorite oral sex scene of the entire Readathon. Probably. Yeah. I'll tell you what my first one was. Oh no, the first one wasn't even in the Readathon. Yeah, so this was my favorite. That was. Sorry. Little squirrel moment. Sorry. This one used toys as well, and they are described in great detail about how they are used and how they are enjoyed, and thoroughly enjoyed that. I love that. I love an author that's not afraid to tell it like it is. A lot of people use these things. Please. She's been single for 5 years. Yeah, she's got something in her drawer. Let's talk about it. Yes. And there is minor BDSM style scenes, but it's not actual equipment. It is more just whatever is lying around and used. So it's very, I would call that vanilla BDSM. That's what I would call it, but if I am wrong, please correct me. So that is Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geisinger. And I gave this book in entirety 4 stars, because again, it was the ending that just, it just wrapped up too easily. It just did. That bothers me. I like succinct endings. I like all-encompassing endings, and these first two just, I wanted more, I think is what it is. I just wanted more of it. And this is what my bingo board looked like for Ruthless Creatures. So, yeah. Nice and pretty. I think I've already told you the prompts that it fulfilled, but if I didn't, it is Bratva Mafia, recommended by a host, and new to you author. Now, the next book I got to, I am really, really excited about, is Brutal Prince by Sophie Clark. I have finally started this series. I've been wanting to start this one for a long time. And this is what my bingo board for this book looks like. This was the first book I chose for this readathon when I heard about it. I was like, oh, it's finally time to read it. It's finally time. And the prompts that this one fulfills are new to you author, Italian mafia, Irish mafia. The female heroine is Italian. The male hero is Irish. So that's why it covered both of them. It is my oldest mafia because I ordered all of these books at the same time. This happens to be the first one that came in. So that's why it earns the oldest mafia on the shelf. It is recommended by a host. Obviously, Jen at the Book Refuge recommended this one as well. She also did a deep dive of this author, which really sealed the deal for me. I loved that video. I thought it was fantastic. And now I want to read like everything by Sophie Clark. Or not Clark, Lark. I keep saying Clark. Lark. I do want to read like everything by her now. So, also royalty in the title and arranged marriage, because that is a component of this book that is blatantly said on the back of the cover. So that's how I knew it was there. So let's break down Brutal Prince. Brutal Prince is the first in the Brutal Birthright series. As I said, it is Italian and Irish mafia, enemies to lovers, arranged marriage, dubious consent, and multiple acts of violence. Gang violence, by the way. And it follows Callum, and it's either Ada or Aida. I've heard it pronounced both. It is A-I-D-A. So however you pronounce it, I pronounced it while I was reading it Aida in my head. So that's how I will be phrasing it here. But if I am wrong, please correct me. I've just seen it pronounced both ways. So, summary of this book before I can get into this. So we have Aida, who is the youngest and only daughter of the Italian mafioso boss, Enzo Gallos. And she has 3 older brothers who we do meet, and they do play an influential part in the book. Callum is the eldest and only son of the Griffin Irish mafia boss. I believe his name was Fergus. It might have been Fargus. I'm not quite for sure. I can't remember off the top of my head. So here's the setup. The Griffin family is throwing a big party at their estate for Callum, who is running for, I believe, an alderman position. I believe it's alderman. It's a political position with some power. And this is all set in Chicago area. And I'm in Illinois, so this is like right up my street. It's fantastic. I loved it. And so they're hosting a party, and Aida and her brothers are like, let's go crash it. They're having fireworks. Let's go drink their free alcohol. Let's just party. Let's just crash it. That's all they were intending to do. Aida has to use the bathroom, and she doesn't want to use the porta potty. So she sneaks her way into the house to use the actual bathroom. And while she's there, she snoops, because why not, I guess. She finds herself in the library and gets kind of cornered by Callum. Excuse me. Callum does not realize that she's there. She's hiding behind a chair. But he's decided that he's going to sit his happy ass down and take a break. So here's the problem with this. Let me put this book here so we can actually know what we're talking about. I should have been doing this for the entire video. Sorry, guys. That's kind of dark. There he is. There's Callum. Anyway, so he's sitting there taking a break. She needs to get out without being seen. So she is sitting also kind of hiding behind a chair that's by a fireplace. She takes the curtains and lights them on fire, and it kind of just blows up. And she scurries away. Callum puts the fire out, but finds out who it is and goes and hunts them down. Callum gets retribution by breaking her brother Sebastian's knee, who, by the way, is a star athlete at college on a scholarship. He's fantastic. Basically kind of ruins his whole season. So we have 2 acts of violence, one intentional, one unintentional. And both mafia boss patriarchs, Enzo and Fergus, are saying, we are not doing this. We are not going to have a mafia war over our kids' petty bullshit. So let's put everything down and let's talk. And they do. And their conclusion, an arranged marriage between Callum and Aida. And this begins the story of their petty, violent betrothal, wedding, and it is fucking fantastic. Oh my God. This book made me laugh, made me shocked, turned me on. It did everything. It was on point, awesome. It was fan-fucking-tastic. It was so freaking good. I laughed so hard at some of these scenes. The bikini waxing scene, oh, that was so mean of him to do. Oh, that was brutal. But then the strawberry scene, which was completely unassumed that it would go that far, and then he tries to do his thing to her in return. Oh, I love all of it. I love the pettiness between both of these characters because they just kept firing at each other and they were not gonna back down for anybody, and it was fantastic. They were a perfect match in spite, in humor, in wit, in sarcasm, in caring, in compassion, in bravery. They were a perfect set, and Sophie Lark did a fan-fucking-tastic job with these characters. So good. And obviously, I don't want to spoil the entire, I know I've done some spoilers, but I do not want to spoil this one. This one is definitely, you need to read this. This is beautiful. Beautiful. It's great. Anyway, however, let's just get into what works about this book. I'm already bragging about it. Let's just talk about what works in it. So, what works? Multiple plot points that leads to further books. Every single character, the brothers and the sisters, they all have other plot points that we're starting to develop. And I'm just like, yes, this is the start of a very long series. And she's already setting them up right here. I'm like, this is fantastic. Yes, you can see it. It's not just like, we're going to take these two people and put them together. You can already see the future books. You can see what Sophie is doing, and it's awesome. So then we have the character traits of Callum and Aida, and they are just, oh, they are epic together. I just love the way they play off of each other. They are so mean to each other, and yet they love each other indefinitely, and it's just, oh, they are perfect. Perfect. Callum's character arc was fantastic. He accepted Aida for who she was. She was not your cookie cutter Italian mafia princess. She was a badass. She took no shit from anybody, and she was a little spitfire. She was fantastic. I loved her. And he accepted her for what she was, knew she was smart, let her use her skills and her gifts. And I really appreciate that about Callum, because he's an ass, but he's the level blast. And that's my husband that just came home. That's when the door you just heard, but that was my husband coming home. The sex scenes in this book were very believable. They didn't seem so outlandish and so, out there that they couldn't possibly have happened. Their first sexual encounter was actually in the shower, and it was on point, epic. I loved it so freaking much. It was one of my favorites of this book. It was great. And yeah, very believable sex scenes. The physical characteristics of Aida was another high point in this, because she was a curvy chick. She was not a stick twig. She wasn't petite. Well, she was short compared to Callum. They read Callum as like 6'2", 6'3", and she was short in stature, but she was thicker. And being a plus size chick, I like this. Thank you. I thoroughly enjoy the good looking guy, the jock, liking the thicker girls. Thank you for not wanting somebody that breaks easily. Appreciate that. It's a fact that I really look forward to. I like my heroines to have some meat on their bones. I just do. What didn't work in this book? And there's not a lot in this book that did not work. Actually, one thing I found. In the beginning, you see the severe patriarchal presence of Enzo and Fergus. They see this possible war starting, and they're saying, no, we're not doing this. We're putting a foot down. You two getting married. Shut the fuck up. You're doing it. That's it. But that's the last bit we really see of them. I mean, we see them kind of argue back and forth, but you don't really see them involved in all of the events that take place later on. There are some serious events that take place, some graphic family mafia type stuff, and you don't really see them get hardcore involved. You see it kind of handled by the two eldest sons of both families the most, which I really thought was kind of weird, because they were so prevalent and so strong in the beginning that they just kind of fizzled out at the end. But I have been told that later on they start becoming more badasses, and they do show a physical presence and more of a stronger presence in the rest of the books, which I'm cool with. So now let's get talking to sex scenes. So this book only reached a 3.75 on the scale for me, and the spice scale for 3 stars is things are happening. They're a bit more graphic more often. There might be a spank or tickle. Wording is still romantic for the most part. Maybe more positions, some dirty talk introduced. I think that describes this book's sex scenes perfectly. I didn't find them to be really super graphic they weren't graphic as Bratva Baby or Ruthless Creatures. They were not as graphic as that for me, but there were some violent gestures tagged with dubious consent. Like some of the sex scenes, they were married, so that's why they had sex, but I don't think they really either one of them wanted to. Is just more of like, they had a lot of hate sex in this book, a lot of it, which if you ever had it, you know it's great. So, and she did it well, but very dubious consent. And they had the minor BDSM scenes with whatever available, a tie, a shirt, you know, what's lying around, nothing like, let's go to my closet of treasures and find out what's in here. Oh, look, it's a Sibian. Let's have some fun with that. It's none of that. It's just whatever lying around at the time. But they do have multiple locations. This is one of the few books where there is lots of locations. And the limo scene, yes, yes, all the yes on the limo scene. That was fantastic. That scene was great. I loved every single moment of it. And I loved the very intimate gestures, like just the hand holding and how they make a point to say, you know, I have fucked this girl, but she's never held my hand. And I just think that's so great that they showed it. It was so cute. So cute. I loved it. And then of course there's very graphic language, but it was again, graphic language I think that the characters would have said. It's not just saying words to make a point. So really, really love this one. I gave this one a 5-star. This was awesome. And I am super stoked to continue with this series. I plan on picking up the rest of the series very, very soon. Oh, this was fantastic. This was beautiful. This was beautiful. So Jen, thank you for recommending this book. This was fan-fucking-tastic. Oh my God, I loved it. I loved it. Okay, my last book for the Mafia Romance Readathon was another audiobook, and it was The Bratva's Bride by Jane Henry. This is the sequel to Bratva's Baby, the second in the Wicked Dom series. It is also Bratva Mafia. It's Captor Captive, Outsider Mafia, and I'll explain why I call it Outsider Mafia. This is heavy on the BDSM themes, dubious consent, and multiple acts of violence. So this is my bingo board for Bratva's Bride. It was an extra that I just kind of threw in there. And it met Bratva Mafia, Tattooed Hero, and yeah, I just met those 2. So I did not know if I would be able to have time. This was the only one that didn't appear on my original TBR because I loved Bratva's Baby so much. I just had to pick up the second one. And this one follows Demian and Kalina, aka Larissa, because there's a twist. Kalina is in a mental institution and somehow is able to financially steal millions of dollars from the Bratva, and her twin sister, Larissa, finds out and switches her to save her life because she knows that she will not be able to survive the torture that they're going to put her through. So she arranged this little switcheroo thing, and she gets taken instead of Kalina, but she is being addressed as Kalina for majority of the book, so I'm going to just address her as Kalina until I get to that point. So you've been warned. Demian, we have met in the Bratva's Baby. He was not the second in line because at the end of Bratva Baby, Casimir leaves, and so Demian is now bumped up to the Brigadier General. Dimitri has committed suicide, and so now Demian is now the Pakan. I think I'm saying that correctly. And he personally chooses to kidnap her himself because he is so pissed off that they stole this much money. Now, when he takes her to the compound, he tells her that you will be paying off of your debt. Basically, you're going to service me in any way I see fit, and he only uses prostitutes because he doesn't want relationships. They're too messy. So, I think you figure out where this is going. She's just going to service him, and he's going to take her debt off and keep a little running tally. Super economical, right? Yeah, sounds great. Every act of service is deducted, so he keeps a very detailed journal of acts and tells her that if you're good, I might do double time. I mean, it's like a literal job. She's clocking in, clocking out. She's in a separate room that used to be his office, and he keeps her over there. But yeah, he is no holds barred. He's like, this is business done. I'm not playing any games. You are going to serve me and take care of me until this is all paid off. But you never find out what's going to happen after it's paid off, at least in the beginning. Now, the thing I really liked about this book is that Jane Henry did mention Stockholm Syndrome, because she had her characters in her monologue literally saying, maybe I'm the one that should have been in the mental institution because I am developing feelings for this man, and he is mean, he is cruel, he's horrible, he's hurting me. Like, but I want this. Holy crap, I'm crazy. Like, I loved the internal monologue of Kalina, aka Larissa. I loved what Jane Henry did with her because she really delved it out. She kind of talked about the hypocrisy of what was going on and everything else that was involved. So I really, really enjoyed that. Now, there's a twist in this book as well. So without ruining said twist, a phone call is made. She is able to make a phone call. She finds some way of getting a phone and making a phone call, which sets this huge twist into motion and just takes this book to the whole nother fucking level. It's fantastic. Oh, it was great. So fucking awesome. I love this book. What worked in this one was, again, it was an audiobook by Wen Ross. So I had that nice guttural Russian accent that I'm just like, oh, shivers. It was so fantastic. Oh God, it was so good. But this was a dual narration with Kay Kennicott, who voiced the character of Kalina, and she did a fantastic job as well. I really enjoyed her rendition of the female characters. The character development in this book was fantastic. It was strong throughout. The characters' arcs were gradual arcs. They weren't so forced that it was unbelievable, but it wasn't so slow that it was just like, hey, are you ever going to fucking change, or are you always going to be a total douchebag? It was just the right pace. I loved it. The internal monologue really tells the story of this relationship and how it develops. And then finally, they actually start vocalizing it to each other. So they're doing it on their own, and then they vocalize it, and it's just pure fucking poetry. It's great. Loved it. It was so good. Jane Henry has her heroine utilizing her gifts. She is a hacker. She's the one that taught her sister to actually how to steal the money. And so she actually gets to utilize her gifts as the captive. And I really enjoyed that aspect, that she wasn't just, you know, a walking fuck doll. Damien actually realized she had a brain. She was smart. He realized that this is crap. You're not actually crazy. He saw right through that, and he utilized her gifts and talents within the Bratva Mafia, and it was fantastic. I loved it. The language was on point. It wasn't forced. It wasn't just saying words to shock value. It was all purposeful, but very, very graphic. Very graphic. And not only was there a single twist, but there was a double twist ending in this. So there was multiple twists. Not only do we have twins, we have a double twist, which was fantastic. I loved it. Oh my God. I still have shivers from that moment. It was so good. Oh, and that scene when Damien finds out breaks my heart. Just breaks my heart. The narration of the audiobook just did that scene so on point. Oh, Wen Ross killed it on that. Killed it. The only thing, come on, stop being retarded and work. Thank you. The only thing that I found that did not work in this book was, again, there was a lot of intricate positions in this book. If you're in the lifestyle, I'm sure you would understand the BDSM positions. I am not, so I did not quite understand where her legs were in response to where her arms were, and I had to kind of look some up sometimes and re-listen to those, because I was trying to figure out how she was placed and how things were working and how he had access to certain areas, because I couldn't figure it out. So that was a little but I think that's just not being familiar with some of those positions, because this one really on the heavy on the BDSM. The acceptance of the final resolutions with Larissa remaining on the compound, that I just didn't see happening. I thought that was probably one of the most unbelievable things, and that's why I consider this outsider to Mafia, because she remains. And Bratva's baby, Casimir, leaves with Sadie. And this one, Damien doesn't want to leave. He's like, I'm in charge. I don't want to leave, and I don't know how to make this work. But they find a way, and I just don't think the Russian Mafia would be so welcoming of someone that easily. but she's like a genius hacker, so who knows? I don't know. I just found that part a little bit unbelievable. And the repeating of the same phrase multiple times. Jane Henry did this in this book and this book only. Because they have this internal monologue of, I can't believe I'm feeling this way, but I fucking do. I fucking do. And they say it a lot. They repeat that same sentence a lot. And that got kind of repetitive and a little annoying, especially towards the end when it's like, I love her. I fucking love her. I fucking do. I fucking do. I think he said it like 12 times in like 5 minutes. So I was just like, oh, okay, that's a little repetitive. It got kind of annoying. But those were the only issues I had with Bratva's Bride. Now the sex scenes, this got 5 on the chili pepper scale. Oh, spice rating, 5. And 5 is, according to Jen's spice scale here, is straight erotica, soon, often, very graphic, explained in detail, kinky as fuck. Plot of the book is maybe just banging, or rare occasions there could be more going on. The only thing that doesn't fit is that the plot of this book was an active role in this book. It was very heavy on the plot because she is literally playing her sister. We are not seeing Larissa. He is falling in love with Kalina. And so I thought, because it was always brought back that I'm not Kalina in her head, that the plot was still very active. But there was sex right off the bat, like done. We're right into this. She got there and automatically was a blowjob scene with a collar around her neck. It was fantastic. It was great. I love that scene. It was fantastic. Damien, hands down. He was great. He was great. And I gave this book a 5-star as well. So I had 2 5 stars this weekend. I was so excited. And this is what my bingo board looked like for this one. Now, those are the 4 books that I read for the Mafia Romance Readathon, and I loved every single one of them. I had 2 4 stars, 2 5 stars. Great Audible books. I love the Wicked Dom series so much that I actually picked up the 3rd one and finished it. Because it was fantastic. It was so good. If you liked any of these, go check these out. I loved every single one of these books. They were so good. But now I'm going to put up the cover of Bratva's Bride, and then I'm going to hold up Ruthless Creatures and Brutal Prince. And I want you in the down box below to let me know which one is your favorite guy based off the cover alone. Because mine, I don't know. I'm still debating. And I'll let you know at the end of the video which one is my favorite. So here they are again. We have Casimir, Damien, Callum, and Casimir, aka Cage. So just let me know based off the covers which one you think is your favorite. And based off personality, my personality is Damien. He is my favorite. Oh, I love him so much. He is my fave out of all 4 of these guys. I loved him. Loved him so much. Oh, I want him in more books. Like, I need a whole, like, series just on him. I loved him. He was great. I thought he was the best Dom of all of the books, and he had the biggest growth of all of them because he still maintained who he was, but yet he adapted for Larissa and the situation that was in, and he worked with her. I believe they became more of a team than any of these other couples did. However, Callum and Aida were a really, really close runner-up for the team, but Damien's my favorite based off personality. So that is my Mafia Romance Readathon, and this is my final bingo board. This is what it looks like, all blacked out and colorful. Isn't it fantastic? I'm so proud of myself. I love this. This was the greatest readathon I've taken part in so far. I plan on doing this again. This is like one of my new favorite subgenres. I'm super, super excited about it. My husband's not the most happy about it because he's just like, oh gosh, she's reading more smut books. Damn it. But it's okay. He enjoys it because he loves me. It's fine. But let me know who is your favorite cover below. Mine, it's Bratva's baby. It's Casimir. He's my favorite. He's my favorite on the cover. My favorite cover for sure. So yeah, but personality-wise, Damien. So that is all I got for you guys today. I will link Jen at the Book Refuge video, her channel down below, along with the video that explains her spice rating scale. So you guys can look it up yourself. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys all soon with a TBR for 72 Hours in the Smut Den.